Okay, here is the keypad repair kit for the Logitech Harmony remote controls. These will work in the 620, the 659, the 670, and possibly some other ones that look similar, but please verify before you buy anything. Now, there's these remotes are different, and the buttons are for different reasons. You can see here that these two look identical, and they're pretty much identical as far as the keypad goes. And you can see this button here, when you click on it, it feels different and it sounds different than the rest of them. That's because these are metal snap domes, and the rest of it is all rubber contact switch. So here again we have snap domes. This one has no snap domes, and all the buttons feel the same. These will not work with snap domes. I have a different kit for that that'll fix just this button here if you're having trouble with that. These all come apart similar. The only real difference is that button there. So I'm going to get rid of those two, and we're going to repair this one. Now, the tricky thing is you need a really small Phillips screwdriver. This people would consider a small Phillips screwdriver, but it's not small enough. There's a wide, it's still skinny, but it won't fit in these holes. So you really need a pretty small Phillips screwdriver to get in there. And there's these two screws here. The rest of them are easier to get with a larger screwdriver, but you need to take these out. There's two up here and two on the bottom. Now underneath the battery cover there's one down here, and there's one up here, and sometimes it's covered with a sticker, but they're diagonally opposite each other. So if there's a sticker, you just need to fold that out of the way a little bit. All four of these screws are the same. There's two screws inside that are different, so you need to keep them separate. They're shorter, so it's easy to spot. Okay, once you've got the screws out, you need a flat screwdriver, and I'm going to go in and try to pry it apart down here a little bit, where we took those two screws out. And you can kind of use the screwdriver, if you get something open a little bit, you just slide the screwdriver up where it's tight, and you can just tweak it a little bit. You don't want to be prying or using a lot of pressure because you'll damage the housing. You might shove the screwdriver in there. Just slide it up to where it's tight, and I like to, once I start getting it open, you apply a little pressure, slide up where it's tight, and like that. So just keep working at it until you get them, pretty much most of them off, and then you can just sort of wiggle it like that. Okay, the front part just falls out. Put that back in later. So now I got the back off. I'm going to put that over here. Now the circuit board is only held on with two screws down by these battery springs, and they're different. They're shorter, so just keep that in mind. You don't want to be swapping those screws around when you put it back together. Then just carefully lift it up, and we don't need this part anymore, so let's set that aside. Okay, so this is the circuit board, and this layer here is the backlight layer, and it contacts, there's three contacts here and on the board, and those two screws hold it tight together, and it applies a power which makes all this white glow, and the white lights up your buttons in the dark. Underneath we have just the regular contacts for the rubber keypad, and then we have the snap domes for that silver four-way joystick with the OK button in the middle. So I do have a button repair kit for this, and you just peel that off and put the new one on. But in this video we're showing how to use the rubber keypad repair. Now what I have here is three different kinds of buttons. These buttons are for the the buttons next to the LCD screen. This one here fixes all the buttons at the top, and then there's 6 of these single buttons that you can use to fix any other button besides the snap dome switches. So you could have maybe volume up and down, channel up and down, one of the number buttons or some other button you use a lot of. And if you do need more of these, I do have those available separately. Or if you say you felt like you were never going to need to fix the top buttons or the side buttons because you don't use them, you could ask me in advance to exchange this other buttons for more of these, or you could just go and buy just these if that's all you have is volume button problems or something like that. So these single buttons are fairly easy to deal with when you're down here. Just flip this over. I kind of like, if you want to get it out of your way, kind of poke the screwdriver through one of the holes, and then it'll hold it out of place, and so it won't keep flopping back in your way. These are just peel and stick buttons, and you want to have the black dot, you stick it to the circuit board, and you want to have the black dot cover the gold contacts for the button you want to fix. And you might need to flip over your remote and kind of go, okay, here, where are the channel up and down? You can kind of see that's the joystick button, and there's 2 under there. So right here is the volume up and down button. So I'm going to fix the volume up button. You might, if you have tweezers, I'll get some tweezers. That really helps these little buttons, especially this one, which has very little to grab onto. But you can kind of just pick away at a corner. I usually use my fingernail. Yeah, but once I get it started, plus putting it down on the board, your fingers are probably going to get in the way. You won't be able to see what you're doing. So I just want to put this down. I want the black dot to cover the thing. And I can put it down this way. It doesn't really matter. I don't want to be covering another button, and I don't want to be covering one of these holes, but it really doesn't matter. Just stick that down so it's covering the button contacts. Now if you do run into a situation where I want to fix this button or something and it's too close, you can trim these down anywhere. You don't want to cut all the way into the center circle. You want to leave some of the adhesive around, so you don't want to cut all the brown off. Before you peel that brown backing off, you can cut off little bits of it. You could cut it skinnier at the top and the bottom. You know, and then it would fit in some places, maybe like say if I want to fix this button here and it's really close to that hole, you know, I'm going to trim a little bit more off that corner as much as I can. You know, and then I could peel off the brown layer and just put it right there like that, and that would work. These rubber pills that made the original switch aren't very big. These black circles are a little bit bigger, and some of the other buttons are even smaller. So as long as you get most of that contact covered, you'll be fine. Now unfortunately that's the easy part. The hard part is fixing these buttons up here, because the display and this is really difficult to work around. So basically there's no way around it. We got to take this LCD off and the backlight layer off. You got to be really careful and gentle with it. There's a ribbon cable here and it's soldered onto the board. We want to take the display off and fold it up a little bit, but we don't want to be tugging on that because you can damage it. But you flip it over. To take it off, you flip it over, and there's 4 metal tabs that just go through the circuit board and then bend. So you want to bend those straight to line up with the holes through the circuit board. And then we can flip it over and we can just pick that display up like that. Now there's an opening over here so that you can take the backlight off by just passing it through the ribbon cable. And you see right there it's split. so you can put it on and take it off. Just be really gentle, especially with the LCD display. You don't want to be getting frustrated and tugging on it or anything. Just lift it up, pull it out, and we're going to set that aside, the other parts. Now, put that display back in there. I'm not going to bend the pins. Now we can access the other buttons, so I can put on these other repair. So I'm going to take the adhesive off. These two parts are exactly the same. It's just you flip it upside down to put it one way or the other way. So it doesn't matter which one we grab first. Peeling off that liner. Now again, the goal is cover as much of the button contacts as you can with the black dots. And we don't want this sticking too far off the edge of the phone, off the edge of the circuit board, because there's an adhesive layer on that. We really want to get it stuck on. So there we go. And I'm not going to do the other side. The other side's the same. Just flip that over, put it over there, and you know, you can kind of guess. Here we go. This one's pretty easy at this point. Just peel off that backing, and you line up that hole, and then that hole right there through the board. Just put it down. So now we've got all the buttons fixed, and I got to put the backlight back in. So I want to carefully lift up that display, and I'll put it down on the ground, lift it up, and slide that thing right back on there. And we can put the display back, all the pins back through. It's a little trickier with two layers at the same time. There we go. And I'm gonna hold that on, and then just bend these tabs back over again. There's you know, gold colored plated areas where you bend the part. You don't want to bend it the other way, because then it might scratch a component or scratch through a tracing. Okay, so that's back on. I've fixed all the buttons I want to fix, and it's time to put the phone back together. So, at this point, you might want to clean this display off because you've been touching it. And I forgot to say, before fixing the buttons, you need to clean the circuit board. I'll add a notation in earlier in the video. You want rubbing alcohol, 70% or 90% is better. Just wet a rag and clean those contacts first, because the buttons aren't working because the black wears off, gets stuck on the circuit board, dirt, oils build up, and it doesn't work as good. These contacts fail, they leave dirt on the board, so you want to get it clean before you apply the patch. So, I cleaned the display off, I've got it assembled. Just gently flip it over. There's holes, plastic pins go up through some holes. And there we go. Got it all back in there. Now we got the two screws that they're shorter. They got roundish heads. And the long ones have a very pointed tip and a cone-shaped head. So at the short round head screws, and put those in there nice and hand snug tight. You don't want to strip these screws out. Okay, and then we got this plug. It's a window for the LEDs, the infrared LEDs, and you can see the shape of the hole for the micro USB, mini USB. So that goes in there, obviously. This is a little bit tricky to get on at this point, but the trick is there's a notch in here for this ridge, and I'm gonna, as long as you line that up So they meet together, and it's letting you put it together up there, then it's probably going to be fine. I'm going to gently try to work each clip in by pushing in like that and snapping it down. If you break one or two of these, it's not a big deal because we are putting it together with 4 screws at the end. But it's nice to try not to break them. Okay, we got it all together. There's 4 screws to put back. It helps if you have a magnetic screwdriver, and if you don't, it's fairly easy to make them magnetic. And I'll show you. If you have any kind of fridge magnet, you can just stick a screwdriver on it and repeatedly drag it off in the same direction. And I'm kind of spinning it. You could flip it over, and that'll make the tip magnetic for quite some time, and if it wears out, you just do it again. So that's it. You put the batteries back in, and all the buttons should work great. And this material does not wear out like the rubber keypads do. I've tested them for years and had a machine push on them for over 1 million button presses, and they do not leave residue on the board. They do not wear out. I've even gone at these with sandpaper, little emery board things, and just scraped them. They're really, really sturdy. So that's it. If you have any problems, you can contact me by email, and there'll be links and stuff available for that. Thank you.